Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Flick in the Frame. Today, we are going to be looking at some resurrections. No, we're not talking about the most famous resurrection of all time. We're going to be looking at dead actors reprising roles or featuring in film. And we have this beautiful scale here. Ty, you want to show everybody at home the scale?
It's a scale.
It's a scale.
It's a scale. But you know what? It's our scale.
It's our scale. That's true. So basically what we're going to do is I have 15 actors that I've gone through, put together some information. We're going to look at kind of like how they were recreated for the film, how they were, essentially brought back to life. And then we're going to look at it on our bad to worst scale. So we're going to judge whether or not this is a bad use of CGI resurrection or if it was the worst use of a resurrected actor. Resurrecting actors, it's never like a good thing because it kind of speaks to like the artist's integrity of like, would they have even been a part of this work had they been alive to make the decision? Because essentially it's like they didn't make this decision. And sometimes the actor was already signed on to the project and then they continued production.
There are a few on here that I think aren't even considered. We have it as a bad to worst scale, but the one that I believe is like the least bad, like on this whole list, I think most people will agree with me on this one. It feels like pretty well done.
Okay.
But we'll get there. We'll get
get into it. Let's just go ahead, hop in. So first one, we're going to talk about Bruce Lee. So in the summer of 1973, Bruce Lee died due to complications of cerebral edema. Cerebral edema.
Edema.
Okay.
Edema Manzel.
Okay. Before his death, Lee had begun work on the film Game of Death, shooting over 100 minutes of footage, but passed before production was complete. The director, Robert Klaus, used body doubles, archival footage, and even cardboard cutouts, otherwise known as CGI, cardboard generated imagery.
Beautiful.
Thank you. To complete Lee's role in the film, this is also the only movie to ever use a dead actor's actual corpse in the film, as footage from Lee's funeral was used in the final product. The film was released 5 years after Lee's death and totaled out to less than 15 minutes of footage featuring the actual Bruce Lee. There is no evidence that Lee's estate or family ever approved of his appearance in Game of Death.
I'm just gonna go in. I'm gonna put this one at 3/4 towards worst.
Yeah.
Because he had already signed on in the movie, which is like a good, and he's already had filming stuff. And obviously they used a lot of, cardboards and body doubles. That's all perfectly like well and good. But just the idea of like having his actual corpse is like pretty horrific, pretty actually. Bad. Like it kind of makes me ill.
Yeah.
So yeah, that all, on the back of that alone, I'm going to put it at 3/4 of the way to worst.
Well, and this one is, it's kind of a frame of reference. It's our first one. So We'll put it in now, and then if we want to move it later, it's our scale. It's our scale, so we can do what we want.
It's ours.
Yeah. Now, to add insult to injury, we're going to talk about Brandon Lee.
Oh boy.
Next. So Brandon Lee, he was killed on set of the final days of production on The Crow. Most of the cast and crew after Lee's death did not want to continue the production, despite being days away from completing. The film was originally planned to be a straight-to-DVD feature, but with the publicity surrounding Lee's death, Miramax decided to push it to theaters. Miramax increased the film's budget, hired new writers to help fill in gaps, and Lee's stunt double with a combination of digital face replacement was used to finish the film. The film went on to gross $93 million on its $23 million budget, making it a commercial success. Lee's family wished for the footage of his death, which was actually shot, on the day, on production, to be destroyed after it was used by the police for evidence. The studio honored the family's request and did destroy the footage of Lee's actual shooting. But besides that, it is unclear whether or not they gave permission to use Lee's image after his death.
Most of that movie is Brandon Lee.
Yeah.
I think whether like the real problem with this one comes from the fact that it is the Lee family and that it feels like a rehash of a tragedy that has like already affected their family.
It's a little too close to home.
And it's like, this is the second time this has now happened and it's horrific. And like our family is being exploited once again. With Miramax honoring like the wishes to get that stuff destroyed, they obviously went one step further into the good side than beforehand.
But it was also the production of the movie which caused his death.
Yes, of course it was. But I think this one was done like decently well.
I would say this goes at about the halfway mark.
I was gonna agree. I was gonna say halfway, maybe a little less than halfway.
Okay.
I think that feels about right.
I think I know the perfect spot for it. Here we go.
Ryan, that's just excellent placement.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so here's one that's a bit unknown. So we have Roy Scheider of Jaws fame, many others.
Right.
In 2008, he was filming a movie called Iron Cross when he died during production while battling cancer. Despite Scheider's death, the film went on the festival circuit but was never officially released. The film was officially released in 2022 under the name Beautiful Blue Eyes. And with the Scheider family permission, the production was able to finish Scheider's scenes with his stand-in wearing a prosthetic latex mask and a combination of CGI.
I mean, you had said the magic sentence, which is with the family's permission.
They
and
approved.
also, they didn't rush it and make it look awful or corny. They spent 14 years waiting for technology to catch up so that they could pay respect to Scheider's family and to him and make sure that it appeared as great as they could possibly make it. This is a good example of doing something that I don't think should really be done in film at all correctly. And for now, I'm going to put it like all the way over onto best of the worst.
I think
for sure.
I think it's a fair assessment.
It can move later because I do. That one is one that I wasn't overly familiar with, and
Yeah.
it did kind of surprise me a little bit. So it kind of pushed.
They had that long gap to do it justice.
That's big.
Yeah.
The long gap is huge because that shows that they weren't just trying to milk it for money.
All right, next up, we got Oliver Reed. He was filming Gladiator in 1999. Oliver Reed was on break during filming and apparently had met a group of Royal Navy sailors on shore leave at a bar. Reed was challenged to a drinking match and was unable to keep up with the sailors. He collapsed of a heart attack and died on his way to the hospital. The production was hit with a $90 million insurance claim and was told to recast and reshoot all of Oliver Reed's scenes in the film Gladiator. Ridley Scott, the director of Gladiator, not wanting to do that, decided to rewrite the story, use body doubles, and employed one of the earliest uses of CGI face replacement in a movie. The rewrites rearranged Reed's character in the film to fit into a narrative where it could be completed, but also included a scene where Reed's character was killed, which was not in the original screenplay.
Brutal and very unceremonious fashion for a character as important as he was to the plot, for sure. It was pretty gnarly.
Now, there was no evidence that I could find, at least, that the film got permission to use Reed posthumously.
I always will feel weird about CGIing.
To be honest,
actors.
I never really noticed.
I didn't know that at all. And so like now, like looking back, this is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
So like that's like a weird thing to like now have to kind of live with, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was originally supposed to have a very different role in that movie.
He's supposed to survive.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Here's my thing. Is yes, he had already began production. Yes, he had filmed a good majority of his scenes, and like they restructured the story to make it work with what they had, plus a little extra. The problem was essentially Ridley Scott made this decision on his own with the production to avoid having to go back and reshoot all of these scenes. Like there's literally an interview where he's like, I didn't want to travel to all those countries again and reshoot that stuff. Like I just didn't want to do it. Essentially out of laziness and greed, they just continued without him.
I say we move Bruce Lee up a tier towards worst.
Okay.
And put him here at Bruce Lee's old
spot. 3/4 spot.
And we put...
I was thinking a little bit...
Maybe towards the more...
Yeah, kind of between Brandon and Bruce.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Because he had already started production.
And he was mostly done.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. Yeah. You're right.
It's not the worst, but the decisions as to including him...
Ridley Scott's role in it was not good.
Not good. But I think between Bruce and Brandon is a fair assessment.
Yeah. Also, what a Chad Oliver Reed was. He just met a bunch of sailors and was like, yeah, I can outdrink these guys. And then he died.
Can you imagine the confidence, too?
He was like, what? He's like 70 years old at this time? Man.
What a guy.
What an absolute Chad.
Fucking legend. All right, next up here, we have Marlon Brando. There's actually a few Superman movies on this list, and this is the first one that I want to touch on. And this one, I'll leave it up to you, because I kind of know where I stand on it, but let's get into it. So Marlon Brando, he portrayed Superman's father, Jor-El, in the original 2 Superman films, and was brought back 2 years after his death for their legacy sequel, Superman Returns, using a combination of archival footage and digital face recreation. Brando's estate did give permission to use his image, but Brando himself was never a part of any discussions to ever be in the film, which had begun pre-production years prior. To the movie's credit, the idea to use Brando was conceived by Bryan Singer before Brando's death, and Richard Donner, the original director of Superman 1 and 2, approved of Brando's use in Superman Returns. But Bryan Singer is notoriously a bad guy, so make of that what you will.
Right. This is bad. He was not in talks to be in this movie.
Nope.
He was not interested in being in this movie.
Nope.
He was clearly put in the movie to capitalize on
His image.
on the nostalgia factor of him dying.
Mm-hmm.
It is clear as day why they did it.
Well, it's also interesting because in Superman 2, he was originally supposed to be in the Richard Donner version of Superman 2, but the studio didn't like what Donner was doing. They hired Richard Lester to come in, do reshoots, and they completely removed Brando from Superman 2, its original theatrical cut.
Yeah.
And replaced that character's role with Superman's mom.
And this one fits somewhere in between Bruce and Reed. I don't like so far that it feels like the one that's the biggest, like, money oriented one. Like, it felt the most obviously done to increase the amount of money that was made.
Which didn't work. Superman Returns did not do
it's
well.
not good, but which is, you know what? Good.
Yeah. Fuck that
But
movie.
that's what it feels like so far. And I'm sure there will be some that are worse about it later.
Yeah. Okay. I'm feeling pretty middle of the road about this one, but I'll go ahead and throw him between Oliver Reed.
Go ahead and put him between
Bruce.
Reed and Brandon.
Oh, between Reed and Brandon.
Go ahead and put it between Reed and Brandon.
That's where I was thinking.
Because they did get the family's permission. So, you know what? That is a positive for it. So put him there.
Wonderful. All right. Next up, are you familiar? Just a small Australian actor by the name of Heath Ledger.
Never heard of him.
Oh, well, great actor.
Never heard of him.
So anyways, sadly, Ledger passed away in 2008. He had already begun filming the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Apparently, the only reason the studio greenlit this film was because of Ledger's involvement. When he passed away, the production was suspended indefinitely, and the film's director, Terry Gilliam, was convinced the film would never be finished. Days after Ledger's passing, Gilliam conceived the idea to finish the film, and through a quick rewrite and use of CGI, it was worked into the narrative that Ledger's character would magically change his face into that of another actor. But not just any actor, 3 actors. Johnny Depp, Colin Farrell, and Jude Law stepped in to portray transformed versions of the character, and it was worked into the story that the character's face would change while traveling through different magical realms. A body and voice double was used to complete Ledger's scenes, and thus the film was finished and released. The actors who took over Ledger's role did not accept a single penny for their work and instead opted for their pay to go to Ledger's family. The film was also dedicated to Ledger.
This is well done.
It's about as well done as you can get.
That's good form.
Yeah.
Obviously, like Terry Gilliam, he wanted this movie, and that's another thing we have to take into account.
Ledger is already filming.
Is these movies are also like, you know, big deals for the writers and the directors that are making it. So like their own passion is like put into this. So like you have to give, you know, leeway with stuff like that. But he was already involved with it. He was the reason it got greenlit. The new actors and big names too, like coming in and not taking salaries, donating to the family.
I would put this like even past Scheider.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think this goes on the very,
Move
very opposite
Scheider
end of
up
our scale.
one.
Yeah.
That's very nice. I like that. Big smiles, everyone.
Here we go. Next one. This one I think is pretty okay. So we have Paul Walker, died during the filming of Furious 7. Paul Walker was in an unrelated car crash in 2013, and the production was put on hiatus. Before continuing filming, the filmmakers sought out the family's wishes on how to handle Paul's involvement in the remainder of the film. The family approved of the continued use of Walker's image, and Walker's brothers were used as stand-ins for Walker's remaining scenes. The film was also delayed an entire year so that the production could faithfully recreate Paul's face using CGI. The narrative was also reworked. Originally, Walker's character was to be killed in the film, but the production thought that was in bad taste and instead decided to have Walker's character retire. And he drives off to that Wiz Khalifa song, and everybody's all...
This was, going into this video, what I assumed would be the best example of this. And I still kind of think that. They are paid so much respect and homage to him in that movie. And they immediately went to the family. They didn't use regular stand-ins. They didn't use stuntmen. They used his family to make sure that there was someone on set at any time to say, hey, this is too much. This is too far. There was always a Walker family member there and a part of the decisions. I think this is the absolute best way that it could have been handled. Full stop.
You think this is where Ledger is?
This is the best example of this in my opinion.
You think it's ahead of Ledger or it's on par with Ledger?
I think it might be ahead of Ledger just by one.
Yeah, so we'll move Scheider and Ledger over and we'll put Paul on the very end of the scale over here.
I think this is the absolute best way you can handle something like this.
Got another one here. This is another Superman one. So Christopher Reeve passed away in 2004, but using archival footage and CGI was brought back for The Flash in 2023 for a minor cameo. Now here's where it gets dicey. Reeves' family had not seen and was not told about his appearance in the film and had no involvement whatsoever in the use of Reeves' image. Multiple interviews also resurfaced of Christopher Reeve himself displaying distaste for actors taking recurring roles for a paycheck and wanting to maintain his integrity as an artist.
Awful.
Not good.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful in every conceivable metric. And to make matters even worse,
he looks terrible.
He looks awful in it. The movie is awful. No love.
I don't hate the movie.
The movie is awful, Ryan. The movie is awful. The CGI in the movie is awful. They paid no love, no attention, no respect. This is criminal.
And especially with everything that the Reeves children have suffered. I mean, there's a documentary that came out recently about Christopher Reeve and his story and what he had to deal with and how he ended up the way he did. And just, I cried the entire time. And the children of Christopher Reeve, just like heartbreak after heartbreak, and just having to suffer through so much to then just be slapped in the face by Warner Brothers and say, here's your dead dad.
Yeah.
Like
really bad.
Oh,
really bad.
Like
I hate
I
it.
get he's this iconic version of Superman. And I'm sure there were some people who, when they saw this moment in the theaters, they were like, oh, that's the Superman that I know and love. Look at him. He's there. But when you actually know the parts that didn't go into this appearance, like the fact that the family wasn't involved, the fact that nobody wanted this.
He wouldn't have wanted it.
It's
all bad.
Just bad.
This is the worst one so far.
So we're putting this at the very tail end of the
This is the worst one so far.
Okay. Well, like I said, we can move stuff.
Yeah, for now it's at the very worst. I think there will probably be some that are worse later. But for now, this is the worst one so far.
I'll just tell you. So we're doing another Superman one. I think this next Superman one is the worst.
Pretty bad.
So here we go. We got George Reeves, no relation to Christopher Reeve. George Reeves, best known for portraying Superman on TV in the 1950s, passed away in 1959. His death remains a controversy to this day. While the official finding of his death is suicide, it is believed by some that he was moited. Witness statements about Reeves' mental state painted the picture that Reeves was depressed due to his failed career. This conclusion was drawn from the idea that Reeves was typecasted as Superman and couldn't find work because of his attachment to that role. In 2023, George Reeves was digitally recreated as Superman for a minor cameo in, you guessed it, The Flash. Reeves had no wife, no children, and no family left to approve of this decision. If the official ruling of his death by suicide is to be believed, then the very thing that drove Reeves to kill himself was resurrected for this movie.
This is pretty bad.
You want to move Reeve over and put George Reeves in his spot? Oh, no.
I don't think it's worse.
Why do you say that? He had no family. He was essentially owned by Warner Brothers, and they said, we're going to do what we want with him.
That's kind of my point. That does suck. But in Christopher's case, there were people who actively were saying no.
Well, they didn't even know, but
yeah. Well, even him, like before, he was like, I would not want to do this, and they did it anyway.
Yeah.
This sucks real bad. I'm gonna say on par.
I would say on par, if not worse.
On par.
I'll give you on par.
I can't say worse because the Christopher one is just really, really awful, but not good. Not good at all. I'm noticing a trend.
That
the
Superman,
WB in particular.
Superman actors are incredibly disrespected after their deaths.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen to Henry Cavill in 50 years?
Oh, boy.
Anyways, love that. Moving on. Next up, this one you might be unfamiliar with. We have Peter Sellers. So Peter Sellers is best known for his role in the Pink Panther movies. He passed away in 1980 before beginning production on the originally planned 7th Pink Panther film, Romance of the Pink Panther. United Artists, the studio, wanted the franchise to continue and wanted Sellers' role recast. The director of the 7th Pink Panther film, Blake Edwards, refused to recast because of a critical and commercial failure of the film Inspector Clouseau from 1968, which did not feature Sellers in the main role. Instead, they went ahead on a new version of the 7th Pink Panther film, Trail of the Pink Panther, without recasting, and used deleted scenes from the previous 3 Pink Panther films to fill in Sellers' part. They even had a stand-in for Sellers, who was just a guy wrapped in bandages. It was also worked into the film's narrative that Sellers' character would disappear, leaving the rest of the characters to search for him. The next film continued this storyline of Sellers' character missing and was never found. As a result of the late Sellers being used in the film, Sellers' widow, Lynn Frederick, sued the studio for diminishing Sellers' reputation. While alive, Sellers also vetoed the use of any outtakes or deleted scenes from any of the Pink Panther films to be used in any circumstance.
They were deleted for a reason.
Right.
They weren't good.
Well, his artistic integrity basically said, I don't want you to use that.
Yeah, no. This is poor form.
Can you imagine? They're just like, just wrap that guy in bandages. We'll just say it's the same dude.
Yeah, no, pretty poor form. Put this between Reed and Bruce.
Really? You think it's that bad?
It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Well,
it's another one where like there's definitive proof of like him saying don't do these things,
right,
and then post his death they did it anyway.
Right.
It is a complete disrespect of his life and his artistic integrity.
And this is also an example of they shot this after his death.
Yeah,
like
completely.
He was not alive when they filmed this, so he didn't begin production. I think he was signed on to do a 7th Pink Panther film, but he in no way, shape, or form was alive during the production of this.
All bad.
Next up, we have a more recent one. We have Ian Holm, passed away in 2020 and was brought back for Alien Romulus in 2024 with the approval of Holm's family. Apparently, they were delighted to see Holm resurrected on the big screen. Holm's widow felt that he had been given the cold shoulder by Hollywood in the last few years of his life and would have loved for him to continue his work despite his age. Holm himself was in no way involved in the decision. A puppet and a body double were used with CGI to fully integrate Holmes' character into the movie. Now, let me just tell you where I have a problem with this right away. It's already been established in this long-running franchise that there are multiple versions of androids running around. Like you have your Michael Fassbender android, you have your David Johnson android. You can just get another android. Like you don't have to make it Ian Holm.
I see why they did. It makes sense for Rook to be there, I think. Now, you're right. It is mostly a nostalgia factor. I think there is in-universe reason for it to be Rook, but I understand where you're coming from as well. I like this one. I do. One, I think it's easily the one that looks the best on this list, outside of maybe some like the Paul Walker one.
I mean, he looks good, but I just don't.
He looks good for like the amount of screen time that how under the spotlight he is. He's on full display,
right. And they fixed the CGI when it came to streaming,
and it doesn't look phenomenal because it's still CGI. You still get that uncanny valley effect, but honestly, that kind of plays up with the whole Android thing as well.
Yeah.
Off the back of not only the family being okay with it, but the family kind of applauding it and being happy to see him do that. I think this is a good example. I see where you're coming from, but also giving him such an important role and like giving him like a posthumous send off, like in a movie, like as good as Romulus as well. I like this one. I'm gonna put it like right after Scheider.
Okay, that's a fair assessment. All right, moving on. We got Harold Ramis.
Oh, from Ghostbusters.
From the Ghostbusters, yes. Passed away in 2014. He is credited as the original creator and writer on Ghostbusters, or one of them. Had a contract that stated that no Ghostbusters movie would ever be made without the approval of Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, and Harold Ramis. The production did receive permission from the Ramis family. They recreated him using a combination of old footage and CGI. Here's where it gets a little bit rocky. They had a ghost effect around him, which I know we're in a Ghostbusters movie, but is a dead guy in real life. Yeah. And they also age progressed him to make him look older than he was in the archival footage that they used. And similar to Ian Holm, his character's involvement was fundamental to the plot.
Right.
This one, to me, it's okay because the family wanted this, and the director of it was Ivan Reitman directed the original Ghostbusters, and this was his son, continuing that with a legacy sequel. All of the other Ghostbusters were in it.
But his contract said that without his approval.
Right.
So his family approved, that's fine, but his family's not him.
Who's to say whether or not Harold Ramis would have actually agreed to this?
I don't think this is criminal.
It's not horrendous.
I don't think it's like god awful. I think this is a dead middle. I'm going to retake that back and not say the term dead middle.
Dead middle.
I think
right here in the dead middle.
I think this goes right in the center.
Okay. In the dead middle. Yeah. Okay. Next one here, we're going to end on a couple of Star Wars ones. We're going to talk about Peter Cushing. So Peter Cushing passed away in 1994, appeared in Rogue One in 2016 using a combination of deep faking and CGI. Actor Guy Henry, who served as Tarkin's stand-in, was digitally replaced with Peter Cushing using his likeness and Cushing's voice as well. There's been no confirmation on whether or not Cushing's family approved of this appearance, but the producers on the film, get this, they said that this was nothing Peter Cushing would have objected to. So
I hate this one, for the record.
He just doesn't look good either.
He looks terrible. And it's an otherwise fantastic movie.
Yeah. Oh, I love Rogue One.
This is such a major hit to the overall quality of this film. I do not like it. The actor who is like standing in for him looks enough like him that they could have just recast the role. And
they did in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Like he's far away and you don't fully see him, but like they did recast him.
He's there.
Yeah. And on the subject of like recasting, it's like you look at like Mon Mothma, and they recasted her with a younger actor because all of these events that take place before episode 4, everybody's younger, Yeah. Like you could have just had like a younger, not like super young, but you could have cast somebody who was close enough to Tarkin and then just rolled
weird.
with it.
It's just weird behavior, and I don't like it. This is what I originally thought was going to be the worst because of my own feelings on it. It's nowhere near as bad as the Superman ones. It's not even quite as bad as the Bruce Lee one. I'm going to move Bruce Lee up a little bit and put Tarkin in Bruce Lee's spot. Cushing. I'm gonna stop calling him Tarkin.
I think, thanks. Show a little respect, please. Grow up. So I think, Lee moves up. I think Bruce Lee really is on the end of the scale because of his actual corpse being in the movie.
It's really awful.
I agree. We will move him down and we'll move Tarkin. Cushing.
Cushing.
Okay, next up, we're doing another Star Wars one. You probably know who this is already. Carrie Fisher. Passed away in 2016 after filming The Last Jedi, but before starting production on The Rise of Skywalker, was brought back for Episode 9 using deleted footage from Force Awakens and a combination of CGI hair and clothing replacement to repurpose her character for different scenes. Most likely would have reprised role anyways. Family was good with it. Her daughter, Billie Lourd, who plays Lieutenant Connix in the movies, actually served as her stand-in during the filming of Episode 9. Also had CGI de-aging in Rogue One, but that was shot and intended to be used before her passing. A few other little details. There's the fake-out death in Last Jedi, which was written and filmed before her death, but it's a little...
it sucks.
I didn't feel good.
It's unfortunate.
I didn't feel good about...
The timing is bad.
I didn't feel good about it in the theater. And her character does die in Rise of Skywalker as well.
Yeah. I mean, this one's obviously better than the Peter Cushing one in the same franchise. Yeah. Because the family was involved and she was a much more important character to the plot. And like, you can't just like write her out.
And like I said, she probably would have been in this movie.
And they gave her a good send off, I think, in the 9th movie. It's a shame that it happened after the fake out death in Last Jedi. It's rough. It sucks. But I mean, it was done in a decent way. This is another one where like you get that benefit of like the Paul Walker-esque thing where like her family was right there and played a part in it. I mean, I feel comfortable putting this along like the tied with Brandon Lee.
I would say it's where Ian Holm is. I would say on par with
maybe
him.
like an Ian Holm.
Yeah, because the family was approving. They wanted it. The character had, is obviously a franchise staple. Like
that feels right.
And Carrie Fisher would have done this anyways. Like I'm pretty sure she was already signed on for 3.
That feels right.
So it's not great, but it's not entirely.
Her and Ian Holm are in that spot for different reasons, but it feels right.
Well, as far as resurrecting dead actors for movies, I think that there are tasteful ways of doing it. There are definitely better and worse examples of this.
100%.
As we clearly just established.
Obviously, love and respect to the families of all of these actors.
Absolutely.
And I hope that in the future, we figure out a better way to go about things like this.
We'll see. Maybe just don't. Maybe just let the dead rest.
Maybe just don't do it.
Well, how did we do, folks at home? Do you think this list is accurate on bad to worse? Would you move anything around? Is there anybody we missed? I know there's a lot of examples of this, but please, if you have something down below or any additional details, we'd love to hear that in the comments. If you liked this video, go ahead, hit that like button. We'd really appreciate it. And if you like our beautiful, soothing voices, feel free to subscribe. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice, Ty?
I'd like to think so.
Anyways, thank you for joining us. We will see you again next time here on The Flick of the Frame. I've been Ryan.
I've also been Ryan.
Ryan 2 times. Yes.
I love you. And I want you to know I would never digitally recreate you.
Never.
Because I don't have the artistic skill.
And we respect you and your artistic integrity. And God bless you. Goodbye.